Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Understanding the 6 Styles of Negotiation Engagement. Thank you for coming to this webinar. I'm glad to have you here. This is Dr. Yasmin Davids, who will be conducting this seminar for you, this webinar for you. If you have any questions, feel free to either send me a question via the little question board there, or if you would like, you can wait till the question and answer session at the end of this webinar. We'll have about 15 minutes for question and answer, and you'll be able to answer those, ask those questions, and I'll answer them for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward. Okay, if we look here at the webinar overview, you'll see that we have the overview of 6 negotiation styles. We'll be reviewing the negotiating with avoidance style, negotiating with competitive style, negotiating with accommodating style, negotiating with compromising style, and negotiating with collaborating style, as well as negotiating with observational style and determining the best negotiation strategy. So let's go ahead and get started on the different negotiation styles. First, we're going to go into the competitive negotiation style and what that looks like, and what it means to negotiate with a competitive negotiation style and an avoider negotiation style, so forth and so on. So if we look here at the competitive negotiation style, usually the competitive negotiation style has to do with the individual is often assertive and unwilling to cooperate. They place their needs above the needs of others. Hold on one second. And if we go through here, we'll look at the 6 negotiation styles that we'll be covering. We're going to be covering the competitive mode of negotiation, the avoider mode of negotiation, let me just fix this here. Okay. The accommodator mode of negotiation, collaborator mode, compromiser mode, and observational mode. So let's start with the competitive mode of negotiation. Now, each mode of negotiation is good to use it when it's the right time, and we will go through when it's the right time to use it and when it's not the right time to use it. So you will have a strategy on selecting what the best mode of negotiation or the best style is to use. But it's important that you're familiar with each different style so that when an individual tries to use a style on you, that you'll know and you can identify what style they're using, and then you'll know how to negotiate with that style and get the best out of the negotiation, get the best outcome. Okay, so when you're negotiating with a competitive style negotiator, now usually a competitive style negotiator is always competitive, and they have the attitude, it's either you or me. In other words, one of us has to win, and it's going to be me. It's all about the game for them. They're usually more concerned about winning the fight, and I'm sure we have all negotiated with a competitive style negotiator. And those are the kind that women usually don't like to negotiate with, because those are what we call the hardball negotiators. Those are the kind that it's very competitive for them. And for the most part, women are more on the collaborative mode of negotiation. You have your handful of competitive mode negotiator women, but usually it's more on the collaborator mode. It's important, though, to know how to tap into the competitive side of negotiation, because one day within our career, sooner or later, we will have to protect ourselves. And in order to protect ourselves from a competitive mode negotiator, we have to learn, 1, how to counter their competitive style, and 2, how to go into competitive style if we need to or if we choose to. And there is times we want to, and we'll talk about that. But some of the traits of a competitive negotiator are: they're often assertive and unwilling to cooperate. They place their needs above the needs of others. They try to manipulate the situation in their favor. And once again, they're more into and more concerned with winning the fight. So the best time to use the competitive negotiation style is when you are negotiating for a car. In other words, you don't really necessarily care about the relationship, and we'll get into that a little bit more, so let me not jump into that part right now, but let's go over the next style, which is the avoider negotiating style. The avoider negotiating style, we've all also experienced them, and they are the ones that basically just avoid any type of negotiation. They have no desire to be involved in the negotiation, and this could be for a multitude of reasons, and we will discuss those reasons in a little bit. And they will try to sidestep the situation, postpone dealing with it, or propose that the issue be ignored and that it's not important. They just want to avoid at all costs negotiating. They're typically ambivalent to their own wants and desires. And a lot of women are avoiders in negotiation for the fact that they don't like conflict. They really fear or they avoid conflict. And in negotiation, there's always a possibility of conflict when there's disagreements or there's two conflicting views. Therefore, in order to not even be exposed to the possibility of conflict, women sometimes tend to avoid a negotiation. Also, other times we see avoiders are when people just don't want to come to the table because they're playing hard to get, they're playing hardball, they want to make you wait, it's a power thing for them. So there's many different reasons, but that is a style. So when you see someone that's negotiating that actually doesn't respond to you, it could be for a multitude of reasons, like I said, and we will discuss those, but just know that for the most part, there's a strategy behind it, or it's for a reason. Okay, and we'll learn how to deal with that. Now, the next style is the accommodator. And once again, the accommodator is a lot of people who want to avoid conflict. They also negotiate on the accommodator style. They tend to be passive. They seek cooperation. They often neglect their needs and want to make sure that others get their way. They tend to be submissive and afraid of conflict. They want to be liked. They really want to be liked. Therefore, they're willing to sacrifice their own needs and wants at a time, sometimes too, in order for them to get what they, the other person to get what they want, because their basic need and drive is a need of being liked. Therefore, they'll accommodate. And we need to be careful for us not to turn into accommodators if we, for purposes of wanting to be liked. For women, we tend to either be one way or another. We tend to either accommodate or we go to the other extreme and we become, what people call a bitch. And that is because we think that there's only one way or another. And the reality is there isn't. There is a middle ground, and we'll learn about that. The next one, let's go down. It's the compromiser. Compromiser is the kind of person that will negotiate with you and is willing and will compromise with what it is that they want in order to find a quick solution that benefits everyone involved. Women tend to believe compromisers are collaborators, but they're not. They're very different, and the difference we will see right now, we'll give you the difference when we get to the collaborator. The compromiser, what you're doing is you're actually asking the other person to give up part of what they want. You're willing to give a part of what you want in order for the two individuals to come to a common ground. Compromising is okay. It's not the best way to negotiate. Collaboration is the best way to negotiate, and we'll learn why in a bit. But compromiser is a fast, easy way to get to a deal, but it's not the ultimate and not the best way. I personally only compromise when it's not that important to me. I want to make somebody else happy for other purposes besides the immediate negotiation, or if I'm negotiating with my daughter and she's just ultimately driving me crazy, I'll compromise. The other mode, it's another style, mode and style are the same things, is observational negotiation. And observational negotiation is actually one of the best ways to negotiate when you don't know the other individual, you don't know if you can trust them, because collaboration means there has to be a lot of trust involved already for you to put all your cards on the table and collaborate. If you don't know the individual, then you don't know whether or not you can trust them, so you can't jump into collaboration, which is what many women do. We trust people, we give them the benefit of the doubt all the time, which is fine, but not fine when we're negotiating, because we have a lot to lose, especially when we're negotiating for our organization and it can cost us our jobs. So we need to be careful. But when you're negotiating with an observational negotiation individual, they will observe before making any concessions. They want to test you. They want to see what you're willing to give, how you speak, what you say. They will only believe half of what they hear because that's what they're taught, and that's what I teach too. And it's not that people lie. It's just that people will position information in order to put themselves in the best light. And they will test reciprocity. There's a rule of thumb for human behavior that says psychological reciprocity is the norm, which means 90% of society lives by psychological reciprocity, and that means they will reciprocate behavior. So if you smile at someone, 90% of society will smile back at you. If you give them something, 90% of society will give you something back. It's a natural way kind of treat me the way you want to be treated. Of course, there's that 10% that doesn't matter what you do, they're always going to try to get the best of you. And those are the ones you need to be careful for, because you never know, if you don't know that individual, whether or not you're negotiating with someone who's in that 10%. And the last but not least style of negotiation that's actually the best is collaborator mode. Collaborator mode is both assertive and cooperative. They seek a solution that satisfies all concerns, and they take leadership in the solution, and they ask the other person to also help them create solutions for the negotiation. They want to get everybody involved. It's more like a problem-solving kind of negotiation. The difference between collaborator and compromiser is that collaborator is the kind of negotiation that you actually create new value. You put more items on the table to negotiate than what you began with. So compromiser, you compromise. So let's say, for example, you're negotiating with a colleague on a project, and you both are, I don't know, you both want to give, well, actually, let me give you a real negotiation that I saw was the best collaboration negotiation real world, and that is a negotiation between the NFL and NBC. NBC wanted to bring the NFL back to Monday Night Football, and NFL told them it's going to cost you $600 million. So instead of NBC trying to play hardball and reduce the price and offer 400 and then they go back and forth like a typical negotiation, NBC said, let's see what we can do about this. Let's see, is there other ways that we can create more value, more negotiation value, so that we all can get what we want and we don't go back and forth? Let's see, are there other needs that the NFL has that maybe NBC or any sister company or brother company can actually provide that would provide us with more business? Well, NBC happens to be owned by GE, and GE is in the lighting business. And there's 30-something stadiums, NFL stadiums, that need lighting. So why not, if GE is competitive in their pricing with lighting, why not get a contract with them and give them the business? So they did a 7-year contract on lighting. Now, GE is also in the medical equipment business. There's 30-something stadiums that need medical equipment for the players and the doctors within the stadiums. Well, they did another contract for medical equipment business. Now, GE is also in the alarm business. Well, all the stadiums need alarms, so there goes another contract. And GE is in the financial services business. And all these players with million-dollar contracts need financial advisors. Therefore, there was ultimately 4, 5, or 6 contracts additional to the Monday Night Football contract that were made, and the complete deal came out to like $1.2 billion. So from $600 million, they sat down, instead of bringing the number down and compromising and meeting each other halfway, maybe at $300 million, instead they created new negotiation value. They upped it, and the NFL, NBC got the $600 million that they were asking for. No, NFL got the $600 million they were asking for. NBC had no problem paying for it because they just made $700 million of business with the NFL. So that's what a collaboration negotiation is all about, is finding new value that you can negotiate on. And that can happen at any level. And it's just sitting down and saying, what needs do you have that I may have resources for? And what resources do I have that you may have needs for? And really, there has to be a lot of trust in order for everybody to put their cards on the table. So that's why it's important to really know whether you trust the person or not. Okay, let's go into how you negotiate with a competitive style negotiator. Now, if you're negotiating with a competitive style, these are the ones that basically come at you hardball. They give you attitude. They bark. They are rude sometimes, or they're just like, you know what, this is the way it is, and kind of the kind of people that intimidate you or intimidate us women. If you are, confronted with a competitive style negotiator, and we practice this competitive style negotiation in our 1-day and 3-day negotiation live training, because it's important for a woman to experience competitive style in a safe environment, we think, and be able to respond to it. And so we put women through this experience and have them apply the rules, the principles that we teach them, so that they get practice. But what you want to do is you ask, first rule is to shut up when you're negotiating with a competitive style. People might say, why? Well, what you will learn in negotiation is that information is your greatest source of power. With information in a negotiation, you have many options of what you want to do, which way you want to go, even what questions you want to ask, how much leverage you have. But without information, you have absolutely nothing to go off of. So because the competitive negotiator will try to use anything they can against you, the more you speak, the more information you're providing them for them to use against you. So you need to basically just not give them any information, just listen to them, ask them as many questions as you could so you can get information and you can have more leverage, and just let them talk, because they usually love to talk. They're usually, pretty full of themselves. So you're gaining power, because information is power, as they're speaking. And I'll give you an example of that. I was negotiating with a competitive style negotiator, and they were talking, and I was just listening, and they were not wanting to pay me what I had asked for. And it is a big top 10 company in the world. And one of the negotiators said, well, it doesn't matter if, you're the only Latin America negotiation strategist that the company can find. We're not going to give you what you want. So big mistake, because he just told me that I was the only negotiation strategist they had found for Latin America, which he just gave me so much power, because now I know I'm the only one, and without me, they're not going to be able to move forward. So he really screwed up by giving me that information, because I just let him talk. So that's a way that competitive style negotiators sometimes can talk themselves into problems. The next one is stick to your principles. And what that means is that, very important, ladies, competitive negotiators do not respect weak individuals. They do not respect nice. They do not respect collaboration. The only way you can gain their respect is if you stand your ground and you basically tell them, I'm sorry. First of all, you're not intimidated by them. You don't react to their bark, and you don't respond to their tactics. You're just pretty much saying, this is what I believe. This is what I think. This is what I'm willing to go for. And that's it. You don't have to do it in an adversarial way. You don't have to have attitude with them. You just have to stand your ground. And then they'll respect you, because they're used to people just bowing to them, and they don't respect people that way. They think that they're weak. The third element of negotiating with competitive style is emphasize your leverage. And what that means is, if you have some sort of power over them, if you know the CEO of the company that they work for, if you have some ties that can show you have power, you need to put it on the table. And because usually women don't do that. They don't like to kind of show off what they have, even if they do have power. But with competitive style negotiators, you have to do it in order for them to take a step back. Because it's like, well, I understand what you're saying, but, Bob, the CEO, and I went to dinner last night, and I don't think he feels the same way. So let me go talk to Bob about this. And believe me, they will lay off. So if you have that leverage, some kind of power that you will learn in sources of power of negotiation, use it when you're negotiating with competitive style. Use it blatantly. In other words, let them know that the power that you have. Okay? All right, let's move forward to negotiating with an accommodator style. Now, if you're negotiating with someone who's an accommodator style, remember that they will give you what you want. They'll accommodate right away. But the only thing about an accommodator style is, because they want to accommodate while you're in front of them, they usually don't follow through on what they promise, either because they can or they really didn't want to promise that, but they felt they were on the spot, so they had to. So you have to get these commitments in writing from them. even if it means if they committed to something on the telephone with you or in person, you go straight back to your office or you go right on your computer and you send them an email and you say something like this. Dear Michelle, it was great seeing you or whatever, just to make sure that we're both clear, just to make sure that we both are on the same page about what we decided on. This is what I picked up from the conversation that our decisions were. And then boom, you lay it out. You say, you're going to do this, I'm going to do this, you're responsible for this. Whatever it is that you came to the agreement that you negotiated upon, the outcome, put it all in the email. And then at the end say, if there is something here that I missed or something that maybe, there's a misunderstanding or something that maybe that you don't think we came to an outcome about, please email me back and let me know. If I don't hear from you, I will take this email as is. We will let this stand as is. In other words, don't depend on them to close the deal. Don't say, I wait back and I'll look back to hearing from you. Because what if they don't respond? You can't put the ball on their court on this one. You can't give them that power. You basically tell them, if you don't agree, let me know. And if you don't respond, it's an assumption that you agree because you're not responding. So that's basically how you deal with the accommodator style. Resist the urge to share too much information too early. Be sensitive to the importance accommodators place on relationships. Sometimes they're trying to accommodate because the relationship is important to them. So they'll, and that's okay, but you just need to be careful that they're not, that you let them know that, let them know, make them feel comfortable so that they don't feel that they have to accommodate just for the relationship. Okay, next one is negotiating with an avoidance style. Negotiating with avoidance style is they will try to avoid, of course, as much as they can. So what you need to do is as soon as you get them on the table, you need to focus on the most important items first that you're negotiating for, and you need to just close those. Because if you have 5 negotiating items on the table, you probably get through 2 before they'll have an emergency, before their kid gets sick and they have to go, before they get a call for a meeting or something. So you have to make sure that whatever's the most important, you start with those items first when you're negotiating with an avoidance style so that you get an understanding and get at least a few of the things you want up front. Pro for their interest. Avoidance style, you need to figure out what gets them to the table. What will make them stay at the table? Find out what they need and what they really want. They'll try to hide these if they believe discussing them will lead to conflict. So you kind of need to make them feel very comfortable and very safe. Your likelihood of success will increase the more you find out what they truly want and need. The more you can trigger and find out what they truly want and need, the more you're likely to have success in this negotiation. Okay, let's move to negotiating with the collaborator. Once again, this is the best type of negotiation. Look for their underlying needs. Use objective criteria, meaning that make sure they feel whatever criteria is being used in the negotiation, that it's objective. It's not like just your criteria or just their criteria, but the criteria that you both have agreed upon that is acceptable. Find a variety of options for the negotiation. Don't just say, well, I think this is the best solution or the best option. Just say, I thought about these options. There's 3 here. Do you have any? Or let's create some more so that way they feel empowered that they have choices. You'll hear a lot in negotiation the difference between claiming value and creating new value. And we spoke about that. I spoke about that a little earlier. Claiming value is saying, hey, we have 10 pieces of pie. I claim 5. You can claim 5. We're equal. But you really only have each 5 pieces of pie. That's claiming your, part of the pie. But creating new value means that, hey, we have 10 pies, but out of these, we have 1 pie with 10 pieces, but out of this 1 pie, maybe we can take, some of this pie and we can, I don't know, do something and create more pies, or how about we sell this one, make enough money to buy 2, or so you actually start creating new value in the negotiation. Okay, so negotiating with the compromiser style. When you're going to try to shift them to more of a collaborator mode, if you're negotiating with the compromiser style, if someone comes to you and says, well, let's compromise, it's your job to say, well, you know what? instead of compromising, we can go to that if we can't find anything else. But how about we try to collaborate and see, let's develop some new standards on what we want. How about if we search for additional ways to create new value or to create more negotiation value? How about we develop new business, or let's find some new solutions that will bring us more business. So you use the creation of new value to broaden the negotiation outcome to a new standard. So you basically take them to the next level of negotiation. And because you're taking this webinar, now you understand that really it's up to you when you're negotiating with the compromiser, now that you know, to take them to the next level and open their minds and have them say, hey, instead of us compromising, let's collaborate. Let's create new value in a negotiation. Let's find other ways to do business. And there's always ways if you look hard enough. Okay, negotiating with an observational style. Negotiating with an observational style is they're pretty much putting you to the test. They're trying to find out if they can trust you. So make it easy for them to figure out they can trust you. Be very open, not very open and tell them everything, like information, but you know, let them know, look, I know, you know, that you may not, you know, you may be wondering if everything I'm telling you is the truth. Just know that, you know, I'm very straight out. So basically be very straight with them so they get it, you know, they feel that, hey, you know, you're for reals. If they give you something in the negotiation, make sure you give them something back, whatever that may be. It could be something where they say, hey, you know, you can call me whenever you want, 24 hours. You know, that's their way of saying, hey, I want to build a relationship, and they're testing to see if you're going to reciprocate behavior. You can say something, you know what, I feel the same way. You can contact me anytime. So in other words, let them know you're on the same page with them so that they feel comfortable enough to take your relationship to the next level with negotiation. Okay, so how do you determine the best negotiation strategy? In other words, what negotiation style should you use with the individual? Okay, so let's say you're going to negotiate with someone tomorrow, and you're negotiating with a woman named Carrie, okay, and you say, what style should I use with her? Well, it all depends on the relationship you have with her. If you look here at this graph, or this box, this kind of, graph, if you look here, if it says importance of relationship on the left-hand side, right here, and then it says importance of outcome here. If you see here, if your importance of relationship is high and your importance of outcome is high, the best style to use is collaboration here. Okay? The more important the relationship and the outcome is, the more important it is for you to collaborate. Now, let's go to the other extreme. If the importance of the relationship is low, you don't care about building a relationship with this person, but you do care on the outcome you get, then you go competitive mode. And what I mean by that, let's say here you're going to buy a car. Okay, the question is your importance of relationship important with the salesman? Well, no, not necessarily. You just want to buy a car. So it's low. Is the importance of the outcome important? In other words, do you want to get a good deal in the car? Well, yeah, it's very important. Okay, then it tells you here's where they match. You go to competitive style. So let's see, when would you use avoidance or accommodation style? Oops. When do you use avoidance or accommodation style? Well, let's look here. If the importance of relationship is high, okay, but the importance of the outcome is low, you accommodate. For example, airlines, when they have accidents and we have a lot of passengers die or something really bad like that, they want to hurry up and accommodate because, number one, their relationship with the customer and the consumer is high. And the outcome, in other words, they just want to make you happy because they're already screwed up. So the outcome is low. They don't care about accommodating. They don't care about giving you a lot of money. They have insurance. So they will rather give you a lot of money and keep the relationship so that you trust them. So their best mode of negotiating is accommodating. In other words, here, let me give you money so you can be happy. I'll accommodate. I'm not going to try to negotiate with you. Now, when do you use avoidance? Well, if you look here, when the importance of relationship is low, when you don't care about the relationship and you don't care about the outcome, then you basically avoid the negotiation. There's really no need to negotiate. Okay, so let's take this strategy into a more, into a framework that actually a method that you can use before you negotiate, okay? And actually, if we go here, we look, let's see, you will be able on, let's see, about tomorrow or the next day, you'll be able to download this webinar with this PowerPoint and the audio so that you will be able to keep this and you can actually go through it before any negotiation. We see here, we see competitive strategy. Okay, so to figure out how you should negotiate, this is what you can do. First, every style or strategy, where's my cursor here? Here we go. Every style or strategy will give you first a definition. The definition of competitive strategy is I win, you lose attitude. When is it best to use? When you must have what you want, okay? So what you do is you ask yourself these two questions. Is your interest in the outcome more important than the ongoing or future relationship of the other party? In other words, is the outcome more important than the relationship? If your question is yes, and if you have one yes as your answer, then usually that is the best strategy to use. If it's a one-time negotiation, if you put yes, then most likely competitive strategy is the best time to use because you're not, really caring about the relationship. Now, if your answers are no, both no, that means it is not the best strategy to use. So you go to the next one and say, let me see if accommodating is the best strategy. The definition for accommodating is I'll let you win in exchange for some other benefit I hope to gain now or later. Or I'll let you win because I don't want to deal with the potential conflict, okay? So when it's the best to use, when you have done wrong and want to settle quickly, like I said about the airlines. So you can ask yourself these two questions. Are you willing to lose in order to gain something more important? In other words, but women, you need to be very careful in this one because so many women say, well, I'm willing to, to take a loss in this negotiation to gain more business in the long run. Well, you need to be careful in doing that because you're setting a standard when you do that, and you're setting standards on what they could expect in the future. And what you're telling them is, hey, I gave you this low price. Next time, they're not going to want to pay much more. So you need to be careful on how you use that. Is preserving or enhancing the relationship very important? If it's yes, then most likely you do want to use accommodating strategy if enhancing or preserving the relationship is very important, more important than the outcome. Okay? So let's move on to the compromising strategy. Definition, I don't care who wins. I just want to get this over with quickly. When is it best to use? When expedience matters most. And I mentioned this earlier that I use this a lot with my daughter if she's driving me crazy. And it really doesn't matter what she wants. In other words, if it's just, okay, you can have it, like she wants to go to the mall or something. So the question you ask yourself, are you seeking a quick and easy end to the negotiation? Yes, she's driving me crazy. Okay, I'll compromise. I'll take you to the mall. If you're not and you really believe in what you're doing and the answer is no, then you might want to use, you don't want to use a compromising strategy because you're compromising too much. Collaboration strategy. Collaboration strategy, the definition is we can both win by making the pie bigger. Remember, creating more business, bringing more business to the table. When is it best to use? When you want to create a bigger pie. Okay, and the questions you can ask yourself is the outcome just as important as the relationship? If the question is yes, then definitely collaboration strategy is when you should use. Do you have the time required to find creative solutions that meet both parties' needs? Now, it's important to understand that it does take a lot of time to use the collaboration strategy because you literally have to sit there, everybody puts their cards on the table, you have to look for different solutions, and then you have to find ways to find more business, and let's see what you need, well, what I need, can I offer you this, I don't know if so it just takes a lot more time. So make sure it's worth it for you. You cannot use collaboration strategy with every negotiation, it's just too much time, but I would suggest you use it for the negotiations that are worth it for you. Okay, and the last negotiation style is avoidance strategy. Well, I think I have one more after this, but I don't. The definition is I don't really want to negotiate at all. When is it best to use? When you are not ready to negotiate or don't care to negotiate. Avoidance strategy is actually a good negotiation strategy when you're just not ready. And you could at times not be ready because you don't have enough information. If you don't have enough information to negotiate, push the negotiation. Push it and get more time to get information, because without information, you really lack power. So you can avoid them and just call them back when you can. When you're not ready, so if you don't care, then you just don't respond. Not that it's the best way to go, but it is a strategy. And at times when people use that on us in negotiations, it's usually a tactic also to make them want them more, to make them want the deal more, or they want to make us believe they don't need us. They want to make us believe that they're fine without our business or whatever it is we're trying to bring to the table. And this is also in relationships. And they play hard to get. They want to, for us to suffer a little so we can appreciate them, all those games. It's sometimes a game of negotiation as well. So you can ask your question, the question, do you need more time to prepare for the negotiation? If the answer is yes, then you probably want to use some type of avoidance strategy. Can your needs be met without negotiating? Do you even need to negotiate? If you don't need to, if you can go get what it is you're negotiating for somewhere else easier, then hey, there's no need to negotiate. Are the ends not worth the effort of a full-blown negotiation? And sometimes we see, like, in other words, is it just too much work for a little return? Do I really want to work that hard to get what I'm looking for if it's not even that important? Well, if your answer is yes, then you might want to use the avoidance strategy. Okay, and the observational strategy. The definition is, I don't know if I can trust him, or I don't know if I can trust you. When it's best to use is when you do not know the other party well, or you have not determined their negotiation style. You don't know if you can trust them. That's when it's a good time to use. Do you need to watch, the questions you ask yourself is, do you need to watch their every move to determine if you trust them? If you do need to watch their every move, then observational strategy is probably the best way to go. The other question is, are you unsure of their concession strategy? Meaning, are you unsure whether or not they're going to give you what you want? Concession is when you give something up, like you give a percentage off, when you give up something to give it to the other party, you're actually providing what is called a concession. So if you're unsure whether or not they're willing to give you some concessions, or they're willing to give in a little, then you want to use observational strategy, and you actually want to use the reciprocity test. You put something out there to see if they respond and reciprocate behavior, because that will tell you a lot about their negotiation style and whether or not they're going to be collaborative in the long term. Okay, and with that said, those are the 6 styles of negotiation, and I'm going to now open it up for questions. If you have any questions, I'm going to unmute everybody. So let's see, unmute. Okay, so I have now unmuted everybody. If you can either just go ahead and ask the question. If not, you can type it in. If you have to type in a question, feel free to type it in there where it says you can type it in, and it'll pop up here on my screen. And if any of you wants to ask a question, I guess you can either just speak, or I don't know if there's a little hand thingy here, but you can just go ahead and speak up. But I will be taking questions. There's some questions that are coming up here from the audience that they're typing questions. So let me see here. One of the questions is, what do you do if a competitive style negotiator starts yelling at you? Oh, okay. So in other words, I call it, they're emotionally abusing you. That's basically what it is. And just know, number one, it's a tactic. Okay, anytime a competitive negotiator begins yelling, I've had competitive negotiators throw things at me. Not at me, I'm sorry, throw things at the wall. I've had competitive negotiators just think that emotions, especially because I'm a woman, that I would react to that. And the moment I see them acting that way, I know it's a tactic. So it depends how comfortable you feel, but you can do all kinds of things. Number one, the number one rule is do not react to their style. What I mean is don't act scared. I mean, don't, keep composure and just know this is an act. They're not for real. This is an act. They're trying to scare me or they're trying to throw me off my game. The reason why competitive negotiators use tactics like that is because they're trying to throw you off your game. What happens when you're thrown off your game? You're not strategic. You're not concentrating on your next move. You're consumed with how they're acting that you cannot feel empowered because they basically take away your power if you react to them. So you keep your own power by not reacting to them. And what you can do is, what I usually do is I'll look around where there's a seat and I'll sit down and I'll say, just let me know when we can start again. That's my way of telling them this is not going to work. I know what you're doing and I'm not going to negotiate like this. So let me know kind of when you're done ranting and raving. And if they still act up or if they continue to act up and they really just are really upsetting me, I won't react. What I'll do is I'll say, I have treated you with the utmost respect throughout this whole negotiation. And I deserve the respect in return. Therefore, when you're ready to speak to me in a respectable manner, please call me. And I turn around and I walk out. And that is called a tactical walkout. And basically, you want to do that any time that you feel you're going to react to them because they're just getting under, your skin kind of deal. Instead of just reacting, and believe me, there's times I just wanted to cry because they were just like so rude, but you cannot let them see you cry, especially competitive mode negotiators, because they will not respect you. If anything, they'll be like, oh, right, I got her, I'm going to do more now. They kind of kick the weak when they're down. So just turn around and walk away. It's better to walk away. You can later come back to the table than it is to negotiate, let them see you get emotional. Okay, so walk away, take a seat, and let them know, hey, whenever you're ready to negotiate again, I'm here. But don't react and say, why are you yelling at me? I mean, don't give them that power, whatever you do. Okay, because they're not supposed to be doing that in the first place, and the only reason they're doing it is because they're trying to throw you off your game. Okay, next question. Let's see here. Anybody have a question? They want to speak out on the phone, or if they have a microphone, you can go ahead and speak out. If not, then we're going to take another these messaging questions that's coming up here on the screen. Okay. If you're negotiating with, here we go. If you're negotiating with someone you don't really know, I understand we should use the observational strategy. But can you give me an example of how that would be applied? Absolutely. Okay. So let's say I'm going to give you an example of an actual negotiation, an observational negotiation I was involved with not too long ago with somebody from a big corporation that I did my research on this negotiator. He was there. I was going to meet up with them to negotiate a contract. And I tried to do my research to find out what kind of negotiator he was, but he was new to the organization, so he didn't have a track record there. I didn't know anybody that knew him. Usually I know people that know the people so I can find out, how they are, their behavior, their style. But this guy was kind of unknown to the industry, new to the company. I really couldn't find much information. I Googled him, couldn't find much on Google, and that's frustrating because usually I can Google and find out tons. But so I said, okay, I'm just going to have to use observational with this guy and find out what's up. So I meet up with him. He's very nice, but, of course, I didn't know him. I didn't know whether I can trust him. I didn't know how willing he was to collaborate or not. So first rule is I knew that whatever he was going to tell me, I was only going to believe half of it, if that much. And let me tell you why. Most people, well, there is some people who will blatantly lie to you, but most people, they don't necessarily lie. They just omit information. So, for example, he told me, our company is number one in the industry, and they're number one in their industry within the U.S., but they're number like 60-something in their industry globally, and it's a global deal. So he knew it was a global deal. He knew it wasn't just a U.S. deal. Why would he give me just U.S. statistics? And that's what he tried to do. So he didn't lie to me because they are number one in the U.S., but he just omitted information that was pertinent to this deal, which means that this deal had to do with the global status, and he chose to use the information, on a national level, the information. So the good thing is I already knew this information, and that's a great thing about having information, is it gives you power, because me having this information allowed me to not let him BS me, or to not let him not believe, thinking that, oh, they're number one in the world. He didn't tell me they were number one in the nation. He just said we're number one in our industry. So, my response is, yes, I do know you're number one in the U.S. industry. How about globally? I asked him, and so it kind of let him know, hey, don't try to, BS me, or, I know kind of what you're doing in a very nice way. Remember, this is all respectful. You have to let people know. People will push sometimes to see what they can get away with. And you have to let them know that they, how much they can or cannot get away with. The second thing is that, so I was only believing part of what he was saying. I was asking a lot of questions. And then I was observing his behavior in the sense that, remember, however they treat you in the negotiation is the best way they're going to treat you. They're trying to impress you during that time if they want to make a deal. So it's only going to stay the same or get worse after that. They're not going to get better, their behavior. So I was making sure this is somebody I wanted to deal with, because the contract actually consisted of me working with this individual on a very close basis for the next 4 years. So I need to know whether or not I even want to work with this guy, because that's a lot of energy for me that if it's not positive, I don't really want to be around. And that's more of a personal choice, of course. That's just me. Some people don't care, and they don't care on the person's energy or behavior, and they still do it. That's fine. But for me, it was important. And, he was pretty cool. He was nice. He was easygoing. The third thing I did in my observational style is I wanted to test reciprocity. So I said, okay, let me see here. How about if on item 3, section B, I'm willing to give you, 3B, part A. I'm willing to, you want that. That's not something I wanted, but you know what? I want to work with you. So I'm willing to give you that clause A, whatever, that said something like, they can cancel my appearance. I said they have to, let us know like 7 to 10 days. They said like 3 days or something, which gives us less time to reschedule that day for me. But I said, you know what? Fine. My attorneys are not going to like this. They won't be happy with me. But, I want to work with you. So I'm willing to change, give up my 7 days of kind of, letting us know the rescheduling to 3 days. I'll give you that. That was my way of saying, okay, let's see what he gives in. So we're talking, we're negotiating. About 5 minutes later, he says, well, you know what? Right here on this item that you want and we weren't willing to give, okay, I'll give you that. So I knew at that time that he did reciprocate behavior. He wasn't trying to just get everything he could from me. He wanted to work with me. And also, as soon as I showed him, hey, I want to work with you, he also showed, I want to work with you. So I knew there that he was someone I wanted to work with and could work with by testing his reciprocity, which he reciprocated behavior. So from there on out, it just kind of went smoother and ended up closing on a really good deal. But it started observational, and I was very wary at first because before I learned the negotiation strategies, I used to just give, thinking and hoping they would give back. And part of the time they did, and for the most part they didn't, because I was dealing with some negotiators who just didn't reciprocate, and I didn't even know all the rules or regulations or styles or tactics of negotiation then. So definitely take the observational style if you do not know the individual and you're trying to figure out how they are. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, it's about 11 over here, so I think 10:57. If we don't have any other questions, if you have any other questions, that you did not maybe have a chance to email here, feel free to email me at Yasmin@womennegotiationinstitute.com. Once again, Yasmin@womennegotiationinstitute.com. I don't think I have it here. Let's see. No, I need to put it on that slide, but Yasmin at WomenNegotiationInstitute.com. Feel free to send me any emails there if you have any questions about your own negotiation needs, negotiation styles. I definitely will respond to you, and I'd be happy to help you in however I can. And with that said, thank you so much for participating and for being involved here and for wanting to become a savvy female negotiator. I hope you'll be joining us in our other 2 negotiation webinars coming up later today, or if you signed up for them at different in July or August, I will speak to you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.